The ship was small. That was the first thing the aliens noticed when it appeared at the edge of Council space. It was barely larger than a cargo shuttle, painted white with blue stripes along its sides. On its hull, strange symbols spelled out words in a language none of them had ever seen. USA Harmony. Inside that small ship, Ambassador Park stood at the observation window and looked at the massive space station ahead. The Galactic Council headquarters was a ring of metal and light that circled an entire moon. Ships from 100 different species moved around it like fish swimming near a reef. Some were as big as mountains. Others glowed with energy that hurt to look at directly. Was 34 years old. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. She spoke 12 Earth languages and had learned 3 alien tongues from the scattered radio signals humanity had captured over the decades. She wore a simple dark suit. Her black hair was tied back neatly. Her hands did not shake, even though her heart was beating very fast. "Ambassador," said Captain from behind her. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and worry in his eyes. "We are receiving docking instructions. They want us to land in Section 47. "The cargo area," said quietly. She had studied the station's layout for months. Section 47 was where trading ships unloaded goods. It was not where diplomatic vessels were supposed to go. "Should I request a different location?" asked. Shook her head. "No, we will go where they tell us. We are guests here. We must be humble." The Harmony flew slowly toward the station. As it passed the larger alien vessels, could see figures watching from their windows. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some were shaped like nothing she had ever imagined. All of them stared at the tiny human ship with expressions she could not read. They landed in a bay filled with crates and containers. The air that came through the vents smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Walked down the ramp with and 2 guards behind her. Waiting for them was a single alien figure. It was tall and thin, with skin the color of old bronze. Its face had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and its mouth was a straight line that showed no emotion. It wore robes of deep purple, and when it spoke, the translator device in its ear turned its sounds into words. "I am," the alien said, "High Speaker of the Dominion. I have been sent to bring you to the council chamber. Follow me. Do not touch anything. Do not speak to anyone. Do not stop walking." "Thank you for meeting us," said politely. "We are honored to." "I did not ask you to speak," interrupted. "Follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them, and every single one stopped to stare at the humans. Heard whispers in languages her translator could not understand. She heard sounds that might have been laughter. The council chamber was enormous. It was a circular room with seats rising up in levels all around a central platform. Each section held representatives from a different species. Counted 12 major groups, each with their own flags and symbols displayed behind them. At the highest level sat 5 figures in golden robes. They were the Elder Council, the leaders of the 5 oldest spacefaring civilizations. Led to the central platform and left her there alone. She stood in a circle of light while hundreds of alien eyes looked down at her. "You may speak," said one of the elders. Its voice echoed through the chamber. Bowed her head respectfully. "Thank you, honored council members. I am Ambassador Park. I come from the planet Earth, which orbits a yellow star in the outer reaches of this galaxy. My people call themselves humans. We have watched the stars for thousands of years. We have dreamed of this moment for generations. Today, on behalf of all humanity, I come to you with a simple message." She paused and looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. "We want to be your friends. We want to learn from you. We want to share what we know. We want to trade, to talk, to grow together. Humanity offers the Galactic Council our hand in peace and partnership." For a long moment there was silence, then stepped forward. "The creature is finished," he said to the elders. "May I respond?" "You may," said an elder. turned to face. All four of his eyes looked at her with something that might have been pity or might have been disgust. "Little human," he said, "do you know how many species have come before this council asking for membership? Do you know how many have been worthy? Your people have only just learned to leave your own planet. You live for less than 100 years. You fight among yourselves constantly. You have no great technology, no ancient wisdom, no military strength worth mentioning." He walked in a slow circle around her. "The council has existed for 50,000 years. The youngest member species has been traveling between stars for 6,000 years. You are infants. You are nothing. You come here asking to join us as equals." He made a sound that the translator called laughter. "You should be grateful we allowed you to land at all." Kept her voice steady. "We do not claim to be equals today. We only ask for the chance to prove ourselves. Give us time, give us—" "Time," cut her off. "We do not give anything. You have not earned the right to ask. The council has already voted on your request. It was decided before you even arrived." One of the elders spoke. "The planet called Earth is hereby designated a quarantine world. No council species will contact, trade with, or acknowledge humans in any official capacity. Your people are forbidden from traveling beyond your own star system. If any human vessel is found in council space, it will be destroyed. This decision is final." Felt the words hit her like physical blows, but she did not let her face change. "May I ask why?" Leaned close to her. His breath smelled like copper. "Because you are insects," he whispered. "Return to your little world, human. Return and stay there. Come back when your species learns to crawl before it tries to walk among gods." He straightened up and gestured to the guards. "Take her back to her ship. Make sure she leaves. And make sure she understands that if she ever returns, she will not leave alive." Walked back to the Harmony with her head held high. She did not cry. She did not beg. She said nothing at all until the ship was back in open space, flying toward home. Then she sat down in her chair and let out a long, slow breath. "What do we tell them?" asked quietly. "What do we tell Earth?" Looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there the council was already forgetting about them, dismissing them, erasing them from memory. "We tell them the truth," she said. "We tell them what they said, every word. It will hurt them. Our people had such hope." "Good." His voice was hard now, harder than it had ever been. "Let it hurt. Let them remember this day. Let them remember what the galaxy thinks of us." She turned to face, and there was something new in her eyes, something cold and patient and very, very dangerous. "Because one day, we are going to make them remember us too. And when that day comes, they will wish they had treated us differently." The small ship flew home through the darkness between stars. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, never thinking about the humans again. That was their first mistake. The message from Ambassador Park reached Earth on a cold winter morning. Every television, every radio, every screen on the planet carried her words. She told them everything. She told them about the Council's laughter. She told them about insults. She told them about the quarantine, the threats, the dismissal. When she finished speaking, there was silence across the world. Then came the anger. People gathered in the streets. They shouted at the sky. They demanded revenge, demanded war, demanded that someone do something. For 3 days, the anger burned hot and wild. But anger fades, fire dies down, and when the flames grew smaller, something else took their place, something quieter, something that would last much longer. Hope turned into determination, pride became patience, and humanity made a choice. They would not forget, they would not forgive, but they would wait. 50 years after the rejection, a young officer named stood in an underground facility on the moon. He was 42 years old, with a shaved head and eyes that missed nothing. He had spent 20 years in the military and another 10 studying every piece of information humanity had ever gathered about the aliens. Now he stood before a group of the most powerful people on Earth. "We cannot fight them," he said simply. "Not yet. Their technology is too advanced. Their numbers are too great. If we tried to attack now, they would wipe us out in a week." "Then what do you suggest?" asked one of the leaders. "That we do nothing." No pressed a button and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a simple timeline. "I suggest we prepare, quietly, secretly, for as long as it takes." He pointed to the timeline. "The Council thinks we are primitive. They think we are too short-lived to matter. But they do not understand humans. They do not understand that our short lives make us fast. We do not have time to waste. We learn quickly. We adapt quickly. We pass knowledge from one generation to the next with fierce urgency." He looked at each leader in turn. "Give me 100 years. Give me resources and people and freedom to work, and I will build you a fleet that will make the Council tremble." They gave him everything he asked for. The United Earth Defense Initiative was born in secret. On paper, it did not exist. No one outside a small circle knew about the shipyards being built in the deep caverns of Mars. No one knew about the research stations hidden in the ice of Europa. No one knew about the training camps carved into asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Spent the rest of his life building the foundation. When he died at age 91, his work continued. His students became teachers. His soldiers became commanders. His dream became humanity's purpose. 150 years after the rejection, Doctor made a discovery that changed everything. She was working in a laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Her team had been studying fragments of alien technology, pieces that had been found floating in space decades ago. Most of it was too damaged to understand, but was patient, was brilliant, and had an idea no one else had considered. "We have been trying to copy their technology," she told her assistant one night. "That is the wrong approach. Their machines are built for their bodies, their minds, their way of thinking. We should not copy. We should learn the principles and then build something new, something human." She worked for 30 years. She failed thousands of times. She filled notebooks with equations that led nowhere. She nearly gave up more times than she could count. But she did not give up, and finally, on a quiet Tuesday morning, she succeeded. The energy core she created was smaller than any alien design. It was more efficient. It was more powerful. And most importantly, it was built for human hands and human minds to control. "How is this possible?" asked the young engineer who first saw it work. "How did you make something better than theirs?" Smiled. She was old now, her hair white and her hands shaky, but her eyes were still sharp. "Because I had something they do not have," she said. "I had 300 years of anger pushing me forward." 200 years after the rejection, Captain Minyu Lee ran the hardest training program in human history. His pilots lived in space stations that simulated combat conditions constantly. They slept in their flight suits. They ate quick meals between drills. They practiced maneuvers that would kill them if they made a single mistake. Many of them did die. The training was brutal. It was cruel. It was necessary. "The aliens have been flying between stars for thousands of years," Minyu told every new class of pilots. "They think they know everything about space combat. They are wrong. They have become comfortable. They have become lazy. They have forgotten what it means to fight for survival." He walked among the young pilots, looking at each face. "You will not be comfortable. You will not be lazy. You will train until your hands bleed and your eyes cannot stay open. You will learn to fly in ways they cannot imagine. And when the day comes to face them, you will move like nothing they have ever seen." The pilots who survived his training became the best humanity had ever produced. They passed their skills to the next generation, and the next, and the next. 250 years after the rejection, Commander completed her life's work. She had spent 40 years studying military history, not alien military history, human military history, every war, every battle, every strategy that humans had ever used against each other. Alexander the Great, Sun, Admiral Yi, Napoleon, every brilliant commander who had ever lived. "The aliens expect us to fight like them," she wrote in her final report. "They expect formation battles, slow, careful movements, wars that last for years. They do not understand human warfare." She created tactical doctrines that combined the wisdom of 1,000 years of human conflict. Hit and run, deception and misdirection, overwhelming force at unexpected moments, patience followed by sudden, terrible violence. "Human warfare is not about honor," she explained to the War Council. "It is about winning. It is about surviving. It is about doing whatever it takes to protect our people. The aliens have rules. We will break every single one." 300 years after Ambassador Park returned home with the Council's rejection, her great-great-grandson stood on the bridge of the largest warship humanity had ever built. His name was, he was Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Navy. He was 55 years old, with gray in his short hair and scars on his hands from decades of service. He had never known a time when humanity was not preparing. He had been born for this moment. The ship around him was called the Unyielding Soul. It was 2 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack a moon in half, protected by shields that no alien had ever imagined. And it was not alone. Around it, hidden in the darkness behind Jupiter's moons, waited the rest of the fleet. 12,000 warships, 40,000 fighters, 2 million soldiers and pilots and engineers and medics. 3 centuries of work, 3 centuries of patience, 3 centuries of silent, burning anger. Looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed alien ships entering the Sol system. The Dominion had finally remembered that Earth existed. They were coming to remind the humans of their place. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Admiral," said his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They are demanding our surrender." Smiled, it was not a warm smile. "Open a channel," he said. "It is time for humanity to answer." The message went out across the system, reaching every ship, every station, every listening ear. "You have entered sovereign human space. You have 30 minutes to withdraw. There will be no second warning." In the silence that followed, 12,000 human vessels powered up their engines. Weapon systems came online. Pilots climbed into their cockpits. Soldiers checked their gear. The waiting was over. Humanity was ready. High Commander the Younger sat on his throne aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. He was the grandson of the original, the one who had sent the human ambassador away in shame 300 years ago. His grandfather had told him that story many times before he died. It was one of his favorite memories. The little creature stood there trembling, his grandfather had said, laughing. It actually thought we would accept them as equals, insects pretending to be gods. Now the Younger was bored. The Dominion had conquered 17 species in the last century. Each victory was easier than the one before. The galaxy knew the Dominion's power. Most species surrendered before a single shot was fired. There was no challenge left, no glory, no excitement. Then one of his officers had found something interesting in the old archives. A small planet called Earth, a species called humans. They had been quarantined so long ago that most of the galaxy had forgotten they existed. "Perfect," had said when he heard the news. "A species that has never known real war. It will be amusing." He gathered a fleet of 500 warships. It was far more than necessary, but wanted to make an impression. He wanted the humans to see Dominion power and understand how small they were. Perhaps he would keep some of them as servants. Perhaps he would put them in zoos. It did not really matter. The journey to the Sol system took 3 weeks. Spent most of it drinking expensive wines and imagining the fear on human faces when his ships appeared in their sky. When they finally arrived, he stood on his bridge and looked at the primitive solar system before him. "What a pathetic little place," he said. "One yellow star, a handful of rocky planets. "This is what they call home." He laughed and turned to his communications officer. "Send the standard message. Tell them to surrender immediately or face complete destruction." The message went out. For several minutes there was no response. "Perhaps they are too frightened to answer," suggested one of his officers. "Or perhaps their technology is so primitive they cannot even receive our signal," said another. Waved his hand dismissively. "No matter. Move the fleet toward the third planet. We will make our demands in person." The 500 ships moved forward in a wide formation. They passed the outer planets without seeing anything unusual. No defense platforms, no military bases, nothing but rock and ice and empty space. Felt a small touch of disappointment. He had hoped for at least a little resistance, something to make the conquest interesting. Then his sensor officer made a strange sound. "High Commander," the officer said, his voice uncertain, "I am detecting something behind the large gas planet." "Something, be specific." "I cannot be specific, sir. Our sensors are. They are having difficulty reading it. There is some kind of interference." Frowned. Sensor interference was unusual. Most primitive species did not have the technology to create it. "Show me." The main screen changed to show Jupiter, the great striped giant that dominated this system. Behind it, hidden in the shadows of its many moons, was a dark mass that the sensors could not quite identify. "Is it a natural formation?" asked. "An asteroid field?" "No, sir, it is. It is moving." Before could respond, a new transmission arrived. It was a simple audio message, broadcast on an open frequency that anyone could hear. "You have entered sovereign human space. You have 30 minutes to withdraw. There will be no second warning." The voice was calm, steady, without any trace of fear. Stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. "Sovereign human space." He could barely get the words out through his laughter. "These insects think they own this corner of the galaxy. They think they can give orders to the Dominion." His officers laughed with him. The idea was absurd, hilarious. A species that had been crawling in the mud 300 years ago, trying to threaten the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. "Send a response," said when he could breathe again. "Tell them their time is up. Tell them we are coming and nothing they do will stop us." The message was sent. The fleet continued forward. 29 minutes later, the darkness behind Jupiter began to move. The first thing noticed was the lights. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. They appeared all at once, like stars being born in the shadow of the gas giant. Then the sensors cleared and he finally saw what was coming. Ships, human ships. More ships than he had ever seen in one place. They were not the crude vessels he had expected. They were sleek and fast and covered with weapons that his computers could not identify. They moved in perfect formation, spreading out like the wings of some enormous predator. "How many?" whispered. His voice had lost its confidence. 12,000 warships, the sensor officer replied. His hands were shaking. 40,000 smaller attack craft. Sir, their energy signatures are. They are unlike anything in our database." "That is impossible," gripped the arms of his throne. "The humans have no fleet, they have no technology," the reports said. "The reports were 300 years old," shouted another officer. "We never checked, we never sent scouts, we assumed they were still primitive." At the center of the human formation, a single massive ship moved forward. It was bigger than anything the Dominion had built. Its hull was dark gray, covered with weapons and sensors and armored plates. On its side, written in symbols that even could now recognize, was a name, Unyielding Soul. A new transmission came through. This time there was video. A human male appeared on the screen. He was older, with gray hair and a calm face. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations, no medals, no signs of rank except a single symbol on his chest. "I am Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Navy," the human said. "You were given a warning. You ignored it. That was a mistake. Found his voice. You dare threaten the Dominion. Do you have any idea what we will do to your planet? We will burn your cities. We will enslave your people. We will. No, interrupted. His voice was quiet but absolutely certain. You will not. 300 years ago, your grandfather told my people to crawl. He told us we were insects. He told us to go home and never return. The human leaned forward, and for the first time, saw something in his eyes that made him afraid. We went home, we learned, we built, we waited, and now we have returned. Paused. Your grandfather was right about one thing. We are not gods, we are something worse. We are humans, and we remember everything. The transmission ended. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. The two fleets faced each other across the cold darkness of space. 500 Dominion warships against 12,000 human vessels. Then the humans attacked. They did not charge forward in a straight line like most species would. They came from every direction at once. Small attack craft dove under the Dominion formation while larger ships struck from above. Missiles and energy beams filled the space between them, so many that the darkness turned to light. Screamed orders. His captains tried to form defensive lines, but the humans were too fast. They moved in patterns the Dominion had never seen, flowing around defenses like water around stones. Every time a Dominion ship tried to aim at one target, 3 more appeared behind it. The first Dominion carrier exploded 7 minutes into the battle, then another, then another. Watched his fleet die around him. He watched ships that had conquered 100 worlds be torn apart by vessels that should not have existed. He watched the humans fight with a fury that no species in the galaxy had ever matched. In that moment, he finally understood. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake 300 years ago. They had looked at humanity and seen weakness. They had seen short lives and small bodies and primitive technology. They had seen insects. They had not seen what was hiding underneath: the anger, the patience, the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. They had built their ships. They had trained their soldiers. They had studied every species in the galaxy and found their weaknesses. And now they had come to show the Dominion what it truly meant to make humanity angry. Sat on his throne and watched the fire spread across his fleet. He thought about his grandfather's laughter. He thought about the human ambassador who had stood so quietly while being insulted. He wondered if she had known, even then, what her people would become. The answer, he realized too late, was yes. She had always known. Lieutenant pushed her fighter through a gap between 2 burning Dominion cruisers. Debris bounced off her shields. Warning lights flashed across her console. She ignored them all. "Blue Squadron on me," she said into her communicator. "We have 3 carriers trying to retreat. Do not let them escape." 11 pilots responded. They were the survivors of her original 20. The others had died in the first wave, their ships torn apart by Dominion weapons. Did not have time to mourn them. She would mourn later if she survived. The Dominion carriers were enormous. Each one was half a kilometer long, carrying hundreds of fighter craft and thousands of soldiers. If even one of them escaped, it could return with reinforcements. It could warn the Council. It could give the galaxy time to prepare. Could not allow that. Her fighter was called a Falcon 7. It was small and fast and armed with weapons that could punch through the thick armor of ships 10 times its size. She had flown one for 15 years. She knew every system, every strength, every weakness. She could feel the ship around her like an extension of her own body. Blue 2, Blue 3 take the port side engines. Blue 4 through 6 hit the starboard. Everyone else follow me to the bridge. The squadron split apart and dove toward the carriers. Dominion point defense guns tried to track them, but the human fighters were too quick. They weaved through the fire like dancers, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. first missile struck the lead carrier's command tower. The explosion tore through the upper decks, killing everyone inside. She fired again and again, punching holes in the armor until she could see the fires burning inside the ship. "Blue Leader, the second carrier is trying to jump," shouted Blue 7. Checked her display. The second carrier's engines were glowing, building power for a faster-than-light escape. She only had seconds. "All weapons on that ship, now." 12 fighters turned as one. They poured everything they had into the fleeing carrier. Missiles and energy beams and kinetic rounds hit the ship in a single devastating wave. The carrier shuddered. Its jump drive flickered. Then it exploded in a ball of white fire that lit up the darkness for thousands of kilometers. "Third carrier is crippled," reported Blue 2. "It is not going anywhere." Let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "Good." Blue Squadron returned to formation. "We have more work to do." On the bridge of the Unyielding Soul, Fleet Admiral watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. Blue dots showed human ships. Red dots showed Dominion vessels. As he watched, another cluster of red dots disappeared. "Enemy losses at 60%, reported his tactical officer. "They are trying to form a defensive sphere around their flagship." "Do not let them," studied the formation. The Dominion commander was doing what any traditional officer would do, pulling his remaining ships together for mutual protection. It was a sensible strategy. It was also exactly what wanted. "Signal the third and fourth battle groups to hold position. Let them think they have a chance." He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the main cannon." The Unyielding Soul carried many weapons, but its main cannon was special. It was the result of 200 years of research, built from principles that human scientists had developed entirely on their own. It drew power directly from the ship's core, focused it through crystals grown in zero gravity, and released it in a beam of concentrated energy that nothing in the galaxy could stop. It had never been fired in real combat before today. "Main cannon charged and ready, Admiral." Watched the Dominion ships cluster together. They thought safety was in numbers. They were wrong. "Fire!" A line of pure white light shot from the front of the Unyielding Soul. It crossed the distance between the fleets in less than a heartbeat. It struck the Dominion formation at the center. 3 ships vanished instantly. The beam cut through them like they were made of paper. 7 more were caught in the energy discharge, their shields overloading and their hulls melting. The defensive sphere collapsed into chaos. "All ships advance," ordered. "No survivors, no escapees, end this." The human fleet moved forward like a wave crashing against a shore. They surrounded the remaining Dominion vessels and tore them apart piece by piece. There was no mercy. There was no hesitation. 300 years of anger poured out in fire and metal. In the engine room of the Unyielding Soul, Engineer Han worked frantically to keep the ship running. The main cannon had drained enormous amounts of power. Half a dozen secondary systems had failed. Damage reports were coming in faster than he could read them. But did not panic. He had been trained for exactly this situation. He had practiced it 1,000 times in simulations. He knew this ship better than he knew his own home. "Reroute power from the aft shields to the main batteries," he ordered his team. "We do not need shields now. We need weapons." "Sir, if we lose the aft shields, any hit to our rear." "Then we do not let them hit our rear." Pulled open a panel and started reconnecting power lines by hand. "The Admiral needs firepower. We give him firepower. Move." His team moved. They crawled through maintenance tubes and climbed over damaged equipment. They fixed problems with spare parts and creative thinking and sheer stubbornness. When one system failed, they found another way. When tools broke, they used their hands. The ship shook as another enemy volley struck them. A console exploded, throwing sparks across the room. One of its engineers was knocked down, her arm burned. "Get her to medical," said without looking up. Everyone else keep working. They kept working, the ship kept fighting, and slowly, surely, the battle turned into a massacre. High Commander watched his empire die around him. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion was filled with smoke and screaming officers. Half his crew was dead. His ship's shields had failed. His weapons were destroyed. He had nothing left. "Sir," said his last surviving officer, "the humans are hailing us." Looked at the screen. He thought about refusing. He thought about ordering his crew to fight to the death. But what would be the point? There was nothing left to fight with. "Put them through." Fleet Admiral appeared on the screen. He looked exactly the same as he had at the start of the battle, calm, steady, unmoved by the destruction around him. High Commander said, "Your fleet is destroyed, your ship is crippled, you have no options left." "Then kill me," spat. "Finish it. That is what you want, is it not? Revenge for what my grandfather said to your ancestor." Was quiet for a moment. "No," he said finally, "I am not going to kill you. Death would be too easy for you, too quick." He leaned forward slightly. "I am going to let you live. I am going to send you back to the Galactic Council with a message. You are going to tell them what happened here today. You are going to tell them what human ships look like, what human weapons can do. You are going to look into their eyes and explain that the species they dismissed 300 years ago has become something they cannot control." Stared at him. "They will not believe me." "They will believe you when they see our fleet arrive at their doorstep." Smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "You rejected us. You isolated us. You forgot us. Now watch what we became in the dark." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We are coming, High Commander, and when we arrive, the galaxy will never forget humanity again." The transmission ended. A few minutes later, a human shuttle arrived to take from his ruined ship. They treated him well enough. They gave him food and water and medical care for his wounds. They were perfectly polite. That somehow was the worst part. They were not angry, they were not gloating. They were simply efficient, professional, like this was just another day at work. As the shuttle carried him away from the battlefield, looked back at the wreckage of his fleet. 500 warships, reduced to floating debris in less than 4 hours. The greatest military force in the Dominion, destroyed by a species that the galaxy had called insects. He thought about his grandfather again. He thought about the story of the human ambassador, standing alone and offering peace. They should have taken her hand, he realized. They should have accepted her offer. They should have seen the potential hiding behind those calm eyes. But they had not, and now humanity was awake. Now humanity was angry, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Closed his eyes and began composing the message he would deliver to the council. He did not know if they would believe him. He did not know if anything could stop what was coming. But he knew one thing for certain. The humans remembered everything. And they were not finished yet. The Galactic Council chamber had not seen this much chaos in 1,000 years. Representatives from 12 species shouted over each other, their translators struggling to keep up with the flood of angry words. Security officers lined the walls, their weapons ready but their faces uncertain. No one knew what to do. No one had ever faced a situation like this. High Speaker raised his 4 arms and called for silence. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His blue-gray skin was marked with the patterns of 300 years of service. He had survived wars and plagues and political crises. He had never once lost control of a council session. Until today. "Silence," he commanded, his voice amplified to fill the chamber. "This arguing solves nothing. We must think clearly." The shouting slowly died down. Representatives returned to their seats, though their faces remained frightened and angry. "High Commander has delivered his report," continued. "The Dominion fleet was destroyed. 500 warships lost in less than 4 hours. The humans." "The humans are primitives," shouted the ambassador. He was a small creature covered in brown fur with teeth like needles. This must be some kind of trick, some deception. There is no way they could have built such a fleet. I saw the recording, said the representative from the collective. She was tall and thin, with skin that shifted colors as she spoke. It was no trick. Their ships were real. Their weapons were real, and they are coming here. Then we fight them. The stood on his chair to make himself taller. We gather our combined fleets, 12 species against one. They cannot defeat all of us together. Shook his head slowly. You do not understand. High Commander reported that the fleet which destroyed him was not their entire force. It was what they called an expeditionary group, a small portion of their total military strength. The chamber went silent. How much more do they have? Someone asked. His estimate based on the transmissions he intercepted is that the humans have approximately 40,000 warships of various sizes, plus support craft, plus ground forces. Pause to let that sink in. If that estimate is accurate, they are the largest single military power in the known galaxy. Impossible, whispered but his voice had lost its confidence. We were wrong about them, said. We looked at their short lives and assumed they were weak. We looked at their primitive technology and assumed they would stay primitive forever. We locked them away and forgot about them. And while we were not watching, they were preparing. Before anyone could respond, an alarm began to sound. It was a sound that none of them had ever heard before, a deep pulsing tone that meant something had violated the most protected space in the galaxy. What is that? Demanded the representative. A technician rushed to a console and checked the readings. When he turned around, his face was pale. Ships, he said. Ships are arriving at the outer boundary, many ships. The main display screen flickered to life. It showed a view of space beyond the council station, the empty darkness that surrounded their capital world of. But it was not empty anymore. Points of light were appearing, dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. They emerged from fold space in perfect formation, each ship appearing exactly where it was supposed to be. The display struggled to count them all. 10,000 ships, the technician reported, his voice shaking. 20,000, 30,000, they are still arriving. The council watched in horror as the human fleet filled the sky. Battleships the size of small moons, carriers deploying swarms of fighter craft, support vessels and troop transports and ships whose purpose no one could identify. They blocked out the stars. At the center of the formation, one ship stood out. It was larger than any of the others, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. On its hull, painted in letters that every species could now read thanks to translation software, was the name, Eternal Dawn. They are hailing us, said the technician. Took a deep breath, put them through. The screen changed to show the bridge of the Eternal Dawn. Standing at its center was a human female. She was perhaps 60 years old by human counting, with silver hair cut short and a face that showed both strength and weariness. She wore a simple dark uniform with a single symbol on her chest, a circle surrounding a planet with a star behind it. I am Supreme Admiral Park, she said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. Great-granddaughter of Ambassador Park, who stood in your chamber 300 years ago and offered you friendship. The chamber was absolutely silent. 300 years ago, continued, my ancestor came to you with open hands. She asked for nothing but the chance to prove ourselves, the chance to learn from you, the chance to stand among the stars as equals. She paused, and her eyes moved across the screen as if she could see every face in the council chamber. Your answer was laughter. Your answer was contempt. You called us insects. You told us to crawl home and stay there. You sealed our planet behind a wall of silence and erased us from your memory. Found his voice. Admiral Park, if we could discuss. You had your chance to discuss 3 centuries ago. His voice did not rise, but it cut through the air like a blade. We did not come here to discuss. We came here to deliver a message. On the screen, tactical displays began appearing behind her. They showed the position of every human ship surrounding. They showed the weapons locked onto the planet. They showed the orbital bombardment platforms moving into position. "Your Dominion attacked our home," said. "They came to enslave us. They came to remind us of our place. Instead, we reminded them of theirs." She let that hang in the air for a moment. "We could do the same to you, right now. Every ship in this fleet is ready to fire. We could turn your capital into ash before your combined fleets could even arrive." The ambassador made a small sound of terror. The representative had gone completely still. "But we are not going to do that." His expression did not change. "We are not like you. We do not destroy those who are weaker than us. We do not laugh at those who come in peace. We do not seal away entire species because they are different." She stepped forward, and the camera moved with her. "My great-grandmother came here with a dream. She believed that humanity could join the galactic community. She believed that we had something to offer. She believed in peace and cooperation and mutual respect." Paused. "I still believe in that dream, but I also understand something she did not." Her eyes hardened. "Peace must be earned, respect must be demanded, and no one will ever dismiss humanity again." The screen behind her changed to show a list of demands. 12 items, written in simple language that every species could understand. "These are our terms," said. "The Dominion will surrender all military vessels to human control. Every species that voted against our membership will issue a formal apology, broadcast to every world in the galaxy. A new seat will be created on this council, a seat that will lead rather than follow. And that seat will belong to humanity." Stared at the screen. "You cannot simply—" "I am not finished." His voice cut through his protest. "You will have one standard day to accept these terms. For every hour of delay after that deadline, one Dominion colony will be removed from existence. Not conquered, not occupied, removed. You will watch your allies disappear one by one until you understand that we are serious." She straightened her uniform and looked directly into the camera. "300 years ago you told us to crawl. Today we stand above you." Her voice was quiet now, almost sad. "We did not want this. We wanted to be your friends. You made that impossible, so now you will be something else. You will be an example, a lesson, a reminder to every species in the galaxy." The camera pulled back to show the full bridge of the eternal dawn. Officers stood at their stations, calm and ready. Behind them, through the observation windows, the lights of the human fleet filled the darkness. "Humanity does not forget," said. "Humanity does not forgive, but we are patient. We gave you 300 years to remember that." She paused one final time. "Your time starts now." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. The council chamber sat in absolute silence, surrounded by the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Above them, the human fleet waited. And the countdown began.